Hi, welcome back to NDG Live. I'm your host, Jackie Hardy. In this segment of Backstage Chatter, we're so happy to be speaking with Jackera Davis. Jackera Davis is in the current Broadway Dallas production of Beetlejuice the Musical. In our conversation, Jackera discusses how excited she is to be back in her home state of Texas, as she hails from Houston and is a proud alumni of Sam Houston State University. We know you're going to enjoy our conversation as she discusses, too, her role as a Girl Scout in the Beetlejuice the Musical production, as well as she discusses being the understudy for one of the main principal roles, the character Lydia. You can head over to broadwaydallas.org/tickets for ticket information, and you can see this production from now until March 3rd. Thank you for watching, and we know you're going to love this conversation with our own Texas native, Jackera Davis. So yes, Miss Jackera Davis, thank you for giving us a little bit of your time as you're here in the DFW area in the production of Beetlejuice the Musical. And you're a native Texan, correct?
I am. I'm from Houston, so I'm
Yep.
super excited to be here.
I bet this is home for real for you.
Yeah, definitely. And we haven't been in Texas I think we just got to Texas like 3 weeks ago, and I've been on this tour for a little over a year, so it's about time that we made it here. So
Absolutely. That's right. It's well past due, right? Can you kind of like, since you are native Texan, can you kind of talk about just your journey that led you to the performing arts growing up in the Houston area? Yes.
yeah. So I feel like I've always loved performing. I was super involved in like my church choir, and like super involved in like Girl Scouts. My mom was my troop leader, so there was always a lot of things that I was involved in. Um, and then in high school is when I really got into musical theater, when I just like randomly decided to try out for the musical that they were having. And then from then on, I was like super committed. I ended up going to Sam Houston State University, which is a little outside of Houston. And I graduated from there with my BFA in musical theater. And then from there, I got an agent, and then I auditioned for this job and I got it. So
That
yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah.
Listen, you are destined. Yeah, absolutely. And so you really kind of started getting the bug in high school? It's about the time you're
Yeah.
saying?
I mean, I feel like
Really?
I always knew I was really interested in performing in some way. I mean, I was a cheerleader growing up, like just super excited to just be seen, I guess. But yeah, I feel like the bug, I really got it in high school, probably when I joined Thespians. We had like a troupe, which is like a group of people that really love theater, which is funny because we actually had like our Thespian festival always in Dallas. So we would always come to Dallas to like compete
Really?
and stuff. Yeah. So I feel like this is definitely like deja vu here. Yeah, like
Yep,
the
full
army.
circle. That's
So
right.
yeah, full circle.
Yeah, that's right. No, Texas has got some talent, present company
Yeah,
included. Yeah.
100%.
So it
Yeah.
speaks very well of you to be where you are in such a short time. I mean, yeah, that it is, and certainly so. So do you have family here in the DFW area, or are they coming down? I'm sure they are, you being with this.
Yeah, they're definitely coming down. I do have some friends. I actually had a
Okay.
friend that came and saw the 11 a.m. matinee we had yesterday where I got to play Lydia, which was super cool. Just because I have some friends from college, since Sam Houston is not too far away from Dallas too. So yeah, definitely gonna have some folks coming to see me, which is really nice.
That is great. That is great. Yeah, it always makes a difference, I'm sure, when you know you got family out there.
Definitely. Makes me a little more nervous, but yeah.
It's interesting. It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. No, I kind of get that for sure. Because you definitely want to make them proud, which I have no doubt. Well, I've seen it, so I can
Oh,
very much
really? Okay,
vouch.
awesome.
Yes, I did. Which I do want to kind of get into the role. You are, I know, playing a Girl Scout and an understudy as well for the one of the principal roles, Lydia. But yeah, and I have to say, you were amazing.
Oh,
Listen,
thank you
you got
so
some
much.
pipes, girl.
Thank you
You
so
do.
much.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch you and just the comedic contribution that you bring to it. can you kind of talk about the audition process? Yeah, and getting this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So typically we send in something called a self-tape where they send us the material. So they'll send us like the scene and then like the song, and we kind of record it on our own time and then send it in. And then from there, the casting team will decide if they want to see you again in person. And so I actually couldn't make it to the second round in person. When I was auditioning for this, just because like I just couldn't make it for some reason. I think I was like working and like I just graduated college. So there's a lot going on. So I couldn't fly from Houston to New York. So they actually were able to see me on Zoom, which is really funny. So I had my first callback on Zoom, where I like sang all the material. They give you like some sort of like adjustments sometimes, some direction. And then you do it again. And then I didn't hear anything back for like a few weeks. And then my agent, I guess they saw everybody else in person. And then my agent like emailed me and said, hey, like they really want to see you in person. Like, can you make it? And I was like, okay. And I like figured it out. I found a way to get there. I did my thing. And then probably
You
like a
went to
week
New York,
later,
yes? Is that when
yeah,
you went
yeah,
to New York? Wow,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. And then a week later, I found out that I got it, and I was so excited, super happy, and just felt really lucky, honestly. Yeah.
Sure. I'm sure excitement and nervous all in one, right?
Oh, for sure. This is like my biggest, like big girl job is what I call it. My first big girl job. So it's super cool. I feel like I'm learning so much from everyone that has been like in the industry for so long. So I feel really lucky to be supported and be learning so much while on the road too.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And I tell you, was it more nervous doing it via virtual than in person when you did the audition?
Um, I feel like honestly, I feel like definitely in person is a
More
little more
nervous.
intense just
Okay.
because you're right there in the room.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, Zoom is always a little stressful too because like you're like, what if the internet goes out or like something happens? So
exactly.
I feel like there's pros and cons to both, but I feel like I'm probably almost equally as nervous for both.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. No, that is a really cool story and how you got to where you are and got the part, man. Yeah, and I just want to kind of talk a little bit about I know the musical itself, it kind of centers around, death and the afterlife, right? And can you kind of speak to some of the central themes on those specific topics that it kind of certainly highlights, particularly with respect to grief and how everyone deals with grief differently, because that's kind of highlighted with the dynamic between Lydia and her father.
Yeah.
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 I definitely feel like the show really sheds a light on Lydia's journey with grief.
Okay.
And especially just like seeing the difference between how her father is dealing with it versus how she's dealing with it. I feel like there's some good lighthearted moments too, which is a nice balance because the show is super duper funny as well.
Yes.
But yeah, I feel like it's super relatable and a lot of people can relate to it. And we have lots of fans that reach out when they're dealing with things that are very similar and how they explain to us how touching the story is. So it's really great to see like how many lives this show has really touched, which is really cool.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, and listen, the thing too that stood out to me is the high energy, right? I mean, from the time the
Yeah.
curtains go up until the do- drop, like the
Yeah.
physicality, the musicality, it is nonstop. Y'all lay it all out there, right?
Really never a dull moment, I feel.
Never a
Yeah.
dull moment. It is not, I'm telling you. And so I know for me as an audience viewer, it went by fast. Does it feel like that for y'all? Because it's like going along
Definitely.
forever.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like sometimes I can't even believe we've been doing the show for so long.
Right.
I think we're almost to like our 500th
Mm.
like show, which is
Okay.
really cool. We just hit our like 1 millionth audience member a couple weeks ago, which is really
Oh my
insane. So I
gosh.
definitely feel like as whenever we're moving around the country, it's definitely going by so fast. And also because we're having just so much fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, that is so cool. A 1 million, you said, audience members.
Yeah.
Man, that's quite a milestone.
Yeah,
Seriously.
insane.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our segment is called Backstage Chatter that we do for NDG Live. And just to give you a little background, I always like to do that. We are minority owned and operated
That's awesome.
media. Yeah, it is. It's such a great pleasure to work, for North Dallas Gazette, which is who employs me. But because of that, we have a lot of minority audience viewers. And I always like to ask the question, being that you are African American, but what kind of prompted to the question is when I was doing a little research, I saw that you did an interview with I think it was called the Oklahoma Eagle, which I'm from Oklahoma, so that already got my attention. But I think they had asked the question like, what has been the most interesting thing you've experienced being, a part of this production? And you talked about the moment when you got the wig of Lydia. And
Yeah,
I'm not quoting you verbatim, of course, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but what I gathered from that was that you were saying just the significance of that wig, because if I'm not incorrect, you are like the first African American that
yeah,
got
for
this
Lydia.
understudy.
Yeah,
Yes, first black. And I'm like, so I know that had to bring such a validation
it
and
definitely.
represent our representation of
Yeah,
you getting a role like this that is the first ever, and what validation not only for you but even for other black and brown skin
definitely.
girls that see that. Can you kind of
Yeah.
talk to the emotion, that you
Oh my
felt?
gosh, yes. I get chills just thinking about it. But yeah, I feel like when it happened, when I made my debut, it was so overwhelming in the best way possible. Just like the amount of like little black girls that were reaching out to me and just like telling me how much it meant to them, and just really interesting that like you're able to be the reason why someone sees themselves in something that normally they wouldn't probably be included in, which is really awesome. So yeah, it's super cool. And just going back to the wig, it's amazing, and just to be thought of, and yeah,
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 absolutely.
yeah.
No,
Cool.
no, I always say this as a mom of a brown skin girl, a black girl. I know what it does for me, to see that. And she actually wants to go into the performing arts. So it just encourages and
Yes,
that's right, and inspires that, hey, there's this place for me on this stage when they see
yes,
someone.
exactly.
Yes, like you owning that role. I love it. Yeah, and going kind of back to the story, with respect to, like we said, Lydia, she loses her mom, and so she's dealing with the grief of that. But you touched on it earlier too, that the humor is definitely used a lot in
Yeah,
telling this story, right? Especially talking about a subject that oftentimes it's associated with sadness. So there's a dichotomy there. You're laughing even though this is a
definitely.
serious subject matter. And can you kind of speak to kind of the uniqueness of how they do that so well in the story? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I always make the joke that like you're gonna leave the theater crying, whether it's from like the literal sad parts or like crying from laughter.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it's super cool just the way that like it's a little, I feel like it's a little morbid, but like it's also like comforting in a way. Um, that they just use humor in such a smart way, with the script and the show. And I feel like it's all wrapped up in a bow at the end. Um, I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, I feel like it
Yeah.
definitely, the humor in it is definitely like a huge
It
element in
makes
how.
it easier to talk about the subject, right?
Yes.
Of
Oh my
death.
gosh.
Yeah. It
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, kind of disarms the audience a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Because it is definitely important, to grieve, but you also can laugh through it as well,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of gives you permission to do that.
Sure. Yeah. And our
Yeah.
audience members are amazing. I feel like that's also another reason why the shows go by so fast and why they're so fun to do, is that we have like the craziest, most dedicated audience members, always dressed up in like they're cosplaying. Sometimes they make like exact replicas of the costumes we wear on stage every night. It's crazy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I did see some of that while I was
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
yes,
it's
on
really cool. It's
Wednesday.
really cool.
You're right, it is. It's a phenomenon in some respects. Yeah, and on that, talking about the costumes, can we talk about that and the set designs? I mean, it really transports you into y'all's world. These set designs and they were phenomenal. And I kind of, do you feel like they kind of are central to the story as well, you
Oh,
know?
definitely. I feel like, especially because the show comes from Tim Burton, so it's like I feel like it looks like we're
Yeah.
in his world, like how everything's a little like warped and the shapes are really unique. So it's super cool. Yeah.
Yes, no, it is eye-catching for sure. When you see it on the stage, yeah, it is just brilliant. You know, just all the colors and like you said, the
Yeah.
shapes. Yeah, yeah. It really just blew me away when I saw it. Yeah, in person like that for sure. I know it, and you know, I think my last question is: it is such an iconic story. It's multi-generational, like you know
Yeah.
when I was there, it was every age. I just curious to get your input on why do you think that? Why do you think it continues to have that appeal? And even for newer, you know, generations. Yeah.
I feel like for maybe like older generations, like people that grew up with the movie, remember it coming out, I feel like it's just really enjoyable and nostalgic for them. And then for like newer generations, I do feel like social media has a huge part. Like I feel like people are always constantly making TikToks about it with like the songs, and I feel like at one point during the pandemic, it went pretty viral. Um, but yeah, I feel like it's the combination of like nostalgia and like the work of social media, I feel like. And I feel like those combined are really the reason why our audience members are such a
Oh,
huge range and variety of different types of people, which is really, really cool.
absolutely. And you know, my husband, that sentimental component is so true. And a
Yeah.
lot of them are probably introducing their kids to it so they get
Yes,
to relive
exactly.
it
Yeah, so it's
through
like
their
family,
child.
but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is so great. And I'm sure do you have any other things up on the horizon, or you just kind of in that waiting and seeing? Because how much longer are you on the tour?
I know the tour is running for a while.
Yeah.
So I really don't know what the future holds for me. As of right now, I am on tour.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're just waiting and seeing and enjoying tour while I can.
that's great. Well, let me tell you, Jackera, you make Texas proud. You
Oh, thank
do.
you so much.
All the best to you, in all honesty. Yes, and with your family, I'm cheering you on too.
So much.
Yes. Well, thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And I always like to say, break a leg.
Thank you. Have a good
Oh,
day.
you too. Bye bye. Well, again, thank you for tuning in to NDG Live's Backstage Chatter. The host, Jackie Hardy, hope that you enjoyed getting to know the talented Jackera Davis as much as I did. Remember, you can see this Broadway Dallas production of Beetlejuice the Musical from now until March 3rd. For tickets, just head over to broadwaydallas.org/tickets. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.